Hello and welcome to Cash Furnace. My name is Paul Kinzerski, and together with my co-host Eric Downs, we aim to become your go-to source for daily stock and crypto market news. In today's podcast, we cover Cathie Wood's ARK-X fund impacts the entire space tech market today. In crypto news, we cover $13 billion in Bitcoin futures, up 75% for a record of all time. And ledger owners reporting chilling threats after 20,000 more personal records have been leaked. All right, Eric, you want to start with Cathie?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, Cathie is the golden child of our era. She's gonna go down already in history in the investor world because all she does is the coolest shit. All right, so I mean, it's true. I mean,
look, you're absolutely right, man.
Look, for our listeners and viewers who don't know who Cathie Wood is, she is basically one of the top fund managers in the world, or active fund managers in the world. And she runs a firm called ARK Invest. If you go to their website, you'll see they run a bunch of different ETFs and a bunch of other financial services, but they have a bunch of publicly traded ETFs that are just all based around the coolest topics, the coolest forward-looking topics of our age. You know, there's she talks. There's an entire ETF for disruption. There's an entire ETF for innovation. It's got fintech, genomics, AI, and autonomy, and all of these things. What's so cool is that as we actually talked about in yesterday's episode, we have. Our technology is advancing at an exponential rate. That's an afterthought, right? It's been like that for years, and it's only going to get exponentially better as technology is leveraged to develop technology. Anyone, rewinding 10 years or 20 years in the past could look at the tech sector and say, God, that's a life-changing bet. You invest in the tech sector and you're good to go. Cathie Wood is investing in the tech sector of tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And her fund's performance just goes to show it. I was actually, just before the pod I was just randomly browsing Reddit, and I found some guy on, I don't even sub to our day trading, but like it came up as a suggestion. His little screenshot is like, oh, I broke 107% today on my account, just trading options and holding stock. And I'm like, cool. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I'll click on that. Cool. Great.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, here are the things that I hold. And it's like ARK funds. I'm like,
100%, man.
Damn,
well, so I believe the story goes, her fund was doing all right, but it wasn't outperforming like it is now. But she had this vision, right? And she actually, one of the things I like about her a lot, even though I don't follow her so blindly like a lot of people do, like that guy does. One of the things I really like about her is she uses data straight from the people, right? So yes. She doesn't wait for the numbers to come out in a company. What she's doing, and she's seeing the metrics on what people are talking about, what people are using. And basically she gets in before the numbers even back up what she already knows, because she's done the homework on all this data, all this personal data that's already out there. She's just taking advantage of all of the social media accounts, everybody's tracked data. It's genius if you think about it.
Yep, I totally agree. Yeah.
So now this year, after this March drop, when everybody was like, oh, tech's the big thing, right? Because everybody's going to be stuck at home. Now it's finally paying off in spades for her.
Exactly.
I believe she's like one of the most well-known names for our generation when it comes to investing out there right now, with only like a couple others. If you Google like her trends and everything, like her Google Trends, people just searching her names and stuff, she's number one over everybody.
It's true.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
And so now her next big announcement is that she's launching a space exploration ETF, which is going to be ARK-X. For those of you who are susceptible to FOMO, get in early. So you can so you can ride this one literally to the moon.
Is it which is such a great fucking catchphrase.
I know.
Is it even early anymore? Because people are following her, people that are interested in utilizing their funds, right? And people who are actively investing follow her so intently that I don't even know if you are early at this point, which is crazy to think about considering she announced it yesterday.
Well, I guess when I mean early, I just mean like it's not it's yeah, it's not out yet, right? Yeah, of course not.
I believe it's launching in April. I just mean like the news is already out there and people are just waiting. They're hovering over that buy button right now.
That's right. In fact, many of them are pressing that buy button on space exploration related companies. A lot of companies today had space exploration companies experience big pops just on this news. I assumingly because of just the I would assume because of the, how do I say, the expansion of the investment scope, how do I say, the investment community scope into space exploration. Cathie is the leader of our time. So when she does something, like everyone, when she points in a direction, everyone follows her finger.
Right.
And so I assume that everyone's buying space stuff because, Cathie's just shined a light on a corner of the industry that I think a lot of people, or a corner of the market that I think a lot of people were still a little skeptical on, or maybe just, I mean, for me personally, I'm like, what does that even mean? If you're okay, we explore space, how do you make money off of that?
Right.
But also, you could extend that speculation into saying, like, who knows, maybe some of the leaders in these sectors are going to end up in her fund. And if they end up in her fund, that means she's buying. And if she's buying, that means it's going up.
Well, I'm not, so maybe you can educate me because I don't really know much about launching funds. Pretty sure ARK has already bought the stocks that they're planning to ride for a while, correct? They can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to announce a fund," and then just wait while the entire industry price goes up, right?
That stuff's already taken care of for sure. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, we don't know. I mean, unless she released it, I don't actually know. I don't know.
I don't think she can yet.
I don't know if that's,
or she would, because it's not a public fund yet. It will be.
Right. So I guess the point is that, like, yeah, she already owns, right? But I guess everyone else is thinking, I don't know, honestly, how big the space exploration sector is. I really don't.
You know what we should do for everybody on our Sunday podcast after she launches? Mm-hmm. What we should do is we should backtrack the data to the day she announced, right? Today, which is the 14th, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, the January 14th. We should backtrack her funds and see how much she made just today.
Oh my God. Let's do you want to
just from announcing.
You want to jot that down?
Yeah.
Great idea. So I had a question. I wanted to discuss something with you, Paulie. Oh, wait, actually, before we do, the one other thing I wanted to point out to our viewers and listeners is this is far from a guarantee of anything. But I couldn't help but notice, as soon as I heard this announcement, I went over to the ARK Invest website just to look around and see if I could, learn anything new about it. And I was reminded, now I own several of Cathie's ARK funds, and God, they're great. But I went over to the ETF listing page and I noticed that, there are several different topics listed that, ETF sectors listed, but not all of them have funds. Like I said, she's got a disruptive innovation, next generation internet, genomic revolution, autonomous tech and robots, fintech innovation. These are the, she has 3D printing and Israel innovation as well. So these are ETFs that are public right now. You can go out and buy them right now. And I mean, I don't want to influence anyone into making a financial decision unresearched. But
right, this is not financial advice. Yeah. We haven't said this yet on the podcast.
We probably should be saying that.
We should say it every single time, but
Yeah,
this is not financial advice. This is our opinions,
this
and
is
this is
just our opinion.
entertainment purposes.
So I'll put it to you this way: I own these funds because I think they're great, and I'll leave it at that. But I noticed that mobility as a service, space exploration, and cryptocurrency do not currently have funds listed. Space exploration, we know obviously will very soon. But now I'm curious if if there are blanks in her ETF, spreadsheet here, I can't help but wonder what would happen if she, I mean, is it an inevitability that she wants to fill up this column and have an ETF for all of these sectors? And if so, what cryptocurrency and what mobility as a service companies will benefit? In fact, and beyond that, what the hell is mobility as a service?
That's what I was going to ask you. Because
Here, it's really
frankly, I have no idea.
Really, two sentences. Companies involved in self-driving vehicles, electric vehicles, autonomous ride-sharing platforms, and aerial drones. These innovations should spur a transformative boost in economic productivity and subsume the traditional automotive industry. Okay, so she's basically talking about autonomous vehicles of all types. I mean, oh my gosh.
So this would explain some of, because on our group chat today, right, we were just talking about how every single SPAC that even has a glimpse of potentially securing a autonomous vehicle or EV vehicle takeover has been absolutely shot to the moon.
Yeah, unknown.
You could have put in $1,000 on Monday and just absolutely raked it in on every single SPAC that just had rumors about acquiring a new EV.
It's true.
CCIV is up. Ride's up, even though they've already acquired literally everything you could think of.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yep.
So maybe part of that hype is because the Cathie effect, man.
Oh my gosh. Do you think that many people are looking down the line? I feel like the market's dumber than that.
I think that many people are, yes. I would think so. Okay. They're like, how do we take advantage of this? This lady's been killing it, right? And maybe there's a lot of people like me who personally, I think instead of buying her funds at a premium, if I could find similar stocks myself, right, that are going to benefit off of her impact, I think I can make greater returns than if I put that money into one of her funds.
You're probably right. You're probably right. The flip side,
with that being said, though, I heard an interesting theory from an investor I talked to today who's been in the game a really long time, and it's the dumbest but smartest thing I've ever heard in my life. The simplest trading idea, but so smart. And all he did his entire life for his retirement was do S&P 500 with leverage, 3x leverage. And that's it.
Wait.
And so when the market goes up every single year, instead of 8%, he averages 24.
Wait, was he using a 3x leveraged S&P fund, or
was
he using?
Yes. Okay. That's exactly correct.
Got you.
That's exactly correct. I don't know if that's possible to do with something like ARK, if you could go in and buy options on an ARK fund.
You can buy options on an ARK fund.
So if you do something like that, you definitely will at this point with this much hype, you will absolutely outperform the market.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Right. But the risk is, how long is that going to last?
Right.
But still, I was looking at this guy and I was like, you are the smartest motherfucker I've ever known. Just because he's like, look, you average out over 20 years. We've all heard the saying, right? 20 years, your average is 8%, and you will always outperform self-managed funds. That's what every single financial advisor tells you. That's the go-to. And he's like, why wouldn't I just buy a 3x fund of the S&P 500 and make 24% a year?
Yeah.
And he was literally a plumber his whole life, and he's a millionaire.
Wow.
just by doing that.
That's
That's
inspiration.
some inspiration right there, right? That's
Dude,
crazy. And
I'm about to jump into my Roth right now and
it's stupid simple, but it's so smart.
all right, come on, Vanguard. Do you have any triple leveraged index funds? Come on now. Let's check it out. I'll do this later. But so the last thing I wanted to bring up about Cathie, and I want to be brief because I really want to move on to your stuff, is actually the point that you brought up. How long is it going to last? It's really weird to think about it, right? Because, you know, if you think about previous, I don't want to call it, it's not, you know, it's not a bubble, like hot trends, you know, if you think about previous hot market trends, you know, each of those trends, whether we know them or not, came with their own Cathie Woods. Every time there was a fund in a hot market, in a hot sector, whoever was managing that fund was, you know, a market celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my first, you know, again, my first thought is like the .com era. So my question, what's interesting to me is, you know, we have to ask this about a person like Cathie. You know, you always want to, like, any investor who's been in the market knows that, like, not all good things last, or all good things come to an end.
Oh yeah.
And Cathie is a really good thing, but it's really, really hard to look at her funds, and especially and look at what's in them. And if you haven't, I strongly recommend just look through it. It's a really easy read. It's really hard to look at these things and say, you have a huge basket of basically the whole future. How are you going to fail?
Yeah. I mean, I do understand that. I think this kind of brings up a point that we've chatted about a few times, which is, at least for me, I think the year of 2021, with everybody getting back, all this pent up energy to do things, to travel, to spend money, I think this is going to be the 99 bubble of our era, right? So my personal plan is, this year, if we go up another 60%, right, I'm going to make as much money as humanly possible, as quickly as possible. And towards the end of the year, when I see stuff starting to get really shaky, I'm going to start pulling cash. Do you think that's going to happen this year? Do you think we're going to have a 2021 massive blow off, and then into kind of a couple year recession like we had in the .com era? Because there has never been 4 years in a row where we have this sort of massive growth to the S&P, to the Dow. Every single year we're hitting record highs, and it's inevitable that it goes the other way. This is just how markets are.
Well, what's weird is there's so many factors to consider when you start to think about something like that. You know, when I think about the .com, when I think about .com, which to me was the last market bubble. Yes, we had 2008 and financial and housing crisis, but that was slightly different. Yes, it was market related, obviously. But that was based on the principle that banks were over lending to people who couldn't pay mortgages. You know, that was what was at the bottom of that whole collapse, is people defaulting on mortgages. And then, yes, it was because all of those mortgages were bundled into, you know, CDOs and things like that. And yes, well, but the thing is, it was, how do I say, the fundamental that those products, those traded products, were based on what failed.
Right.
You look at 2001, you look at the .com, and what was happening is, you know, it was similar in a way, in that anyone who was going public with anything that .com in their name, you know, just to the moon, right? Everyone had the biggest hopes in the world. The reality didn't matter anymore. But I also take into consideration what it was like to be an investor in 2001, and compare that against what it's like to be an investor today, you know? So, and, you know, to that end, I mean, investing has never been more accessible to the general public than it is right now. And it will,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
it will only become more and more accessible, as Robinhood gets better and better, and more brokerages, add more Robinhood like funds, like fractional shares, for example, is a great one that allows anyone to invest. Obviously, commission-free trading, which I think more and more brokerages are probably going to start, like leaning further into.
I mean, the vast majority of them have already taken it. You have to, otherwise you lose everybody's funds.
Right. Exactly. Now, there are still some commissions out there, but I mean, I guess my point is that like more and more people can invest now, which definitely puts a lot more, how do I say, a lot more inexperienced swimmers in the pool, a lot more FOMO, a lot more froth.
A lot more bad leverage as well.
Sure.
That's the key that I'm worried about.
What I'm wondering though is like in 2001, the fundamental problem was that some of these companies that got so huge were not fundamentally sound. You know what I mean? They weren't actually fundamentally profitable companies. They had issues. Once again, the underlying asset failed. So
Right.
now we're looking, again, you look into the companies that Cathie invests in, and I mean, let's just for fun, I'm just going to bring them up. I'm going to bring up ARK-K, because ARK-K is just became the what was it? The ARK-K just became the largest active ETF in the world last month. That's the one I have most of mine. I absolutely. If you look at the list of what's in this thing, there's no question. It's wonderful. So here, let me give you a really brief rundown of some like the top holdings, and then let's look at these companies and say, like, are these companies at risk of a fundamental failure?
I already know where you're going with this, but here's my fear.
Please.
Everybody is trying to get into the options game right now, right? Everybody is trying to utilize leverage to make wealth as quickly as possible. And it's a lot of unexperienced people, and a lot of people do it with all the money they have in their account, right?
Sure.
There are a lot of pure options traders.
Sure.
What I'm worried about is there's some initial catalyst, right? Where it brings it down just enough to start that slippery slope where one person gets liquidated, their entire account, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all those options are spread across multiple companies, and that brings all the prices down. And then
wait.
Person that has a bunch of options also gets liquidated.
But those options won't affect the stock price.
Not necessarily, but if people's accounts bleed by 10%, right? And
Sure.
A lot of those options go to, I don't know, like they're what you bought them for. You've lost everything you put in.
Sure.
They're going to pull funding from other companies, which will drop the stock price.
They're going to pull funding from other companies to do what?
Because basically what I'm saying is it could start with one company. It could start with Tesla, right? And
good example.
When people see, oh shit, it's taken a bit of a dip, let me pull all these profits I've made now, then that goes down more, right?
Wait. What goes down more?
The price of Tesla goes down more. But then more people try to sell out, right?
But wait,
and then I'm just worried that fear basically hops across different companies, and that brings the whole thing down. Does that make sense?
The fear part does, but the options part doesn't, right? Because if I hold a leap on Tesla and it's up 100%, and then Tesla takes a dump and I'm down to 80%, I'm like, okay, I've had enough, I'm out. If I sell that option, or if it goes down and I'm negative, it doesn't matter. If I sell that option, Tesla's stock price is unaffected by that sale. You know what I mean?
Okay. That actually does make sense, right? Because options, you already have paid the money in, and there's only a certain amount you could lose. But what about things like leveraged longs getting liquidated and futures getting liquidated and stuff like that?
Well, sure. Yeah, right. So when you're talking about when you're talking about stock of any capacity, margined or not, yeah, then then you start talking about psychological and mechanical stop losses, right? And when that stuff starts happening and starts cascading down, 100% for sure, for sure.
Right. And then that triggers all of the automatic, what are, what are they called? Where it's just a algorithm that sells at a certain point.
Oh, a stop loss.
Yes, but there are programs in place where
Algos?
like algos. Thank you.
You said algorithm.
Then the algos will kick in and then they start selling.
Well, it's true, but
yeah.
interestingly enough, that's exactly what happened in last March.
Yeah, that's true. And we saw a massive dip.
We sure did. We saw a huge dip, which most experts in retrospect look at as an overreaction, because frankly,
absolutely,
most dips are, because of mechanical algos and stop loss and things like that, because of those functions built in, combined with just pure psychology and the fear of loss. Most of the time, like those dips are more pronounced than they need to be. But I guess what I'm saying is to bring it back around to your original point. Do I think we're gonna just let's just like drive on forever with no correction? No. But I guess what I'm saying is that the current hype bubble around tech, and particularly future tech, disruptive tech, is not one necessarily that is as easy to see right now as having fundamental flaws.
Makes sense.
If you looked back in 2001, you could say, yeah, we paid, it doesn't matter what we paid for the company. It would be like, it was like buying a lemon car at a dealership. It's like, it doesn't matter. Everyone's driving around in a car. You got to have one. So you'll pay anything without checking it, right? That's fine.
Right.
In 2008, same thing. Like, banks are greedy. They'll give you a loan and they'll convince you that you can pay for it. And they'll give you mortgages on multiple properties because they'll convince you can do it. There's fundamental deception and a problem with that model. But then if you look at things like again, the companies that Cathie's invested in, just like Tesla, Roku, CRISPR, Square, Teladoc, Zillow, Baidu, Spotify, these are within the top 10 holdings of the disruptive innovation
fund.
ETF. Yeah. Like, do those companies is wool being pulled over our eyes with those companies? Are they actually not worth that much?
Right.
And I guess the answer to my answer to that question, and it was probably the answer to anyone who asked in 2001, 2008, is that I think those companies are much more fundamentally solid and have a lower risk of going completely belly up.
Fair.
So,
all right. Not to harp too long on this.
No,
so
please, let's go to yours, man. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get on some crypto here.
Yeah.
So I got just a couple quick articles today. Could you enable my screen sharing quick?
Oh my gosh. What an amateur move. I'll tell you what an amateur move.
Hey, we're 4 in. I think we're allowed a few hiccups here.
Please, your permissions have been granted.
All right. Here we go. So right here, speaking about futures, speaking about leverage, we're talking Bitcoin futures right now. $13 billion in Bitcoin futures currently today on the 14th. Shows a ton of strength in the market. This is, for those of you that haven't been following the Bitcoin price, which if you're watching this, I'm surprised if you're not. We've recovered by 27% on this whole 30% dip, right? So we went up and we retested right around that 39,000 level that we thought we were going to see in yesterday's podcast. And basically it's like it was just a blip in the radar, man, which is mind-boggling to think about. It's been 3 days since we had the big sell-off. 3 days, and it's completely recovered from that point. Now, will it continue this way? We don't know, but this is the news of today. So basically, one of the best ways to look into if we believe the crypto market is going to continue being bullish is looking at the futures options, because futures are, you pay a premium in order to basically bet where the crypto market is going to go. And just today, we hit an all-time high at that $13 billion futures market, 74% up from December. This is so obviously it goes on to talk about how the market recovered and everything, but I just wanted to cover this to show just how much strength right now and how much optimism is in the crypto market. We're not going down much, man. We still have a long way to go this year before we see any sort of very significant dip. And I mean, it's mind-boggling, man. I was given predictions out for December that I thought were a little high, and now they're on the conservative side. Even talking about funds, it's kind of mind-blowing.
Man, that's crazy. I mean, wow. Even the recovery on this dip that we've been tracking so much, completely astonishing. 3 days?
Yeah.
Are you joking?
I know.
Joking? I expected to be down for weeks.
Right. And that's the old crypto market, but that's also what we recovered when I was looking at those fractals on our first podcast, right? We are just in the beginning stages of these parabolic trends that Bitcoin sees after their halvings. Every time, every 4 years, right? And we saw a very similar 26% correction, 27% correction back in 2017, and then we went up to reach all-time highs. And I believe we're just on the same page. If anything, I think this next leg up is going to be even further than the 2017 highs, because now we have institutional investing.
Yep.
And I feel like I say that phrase, institutional investing, more than I ever thought I ever would. But it's just the name of the game. The big boys are in. They don't have weak hands, and they're going to keep buying. They see where this is going. And the futures market shows that. We now have, and I apologize again, I don't have the article stating it, but on Monday, we had a $300,000 Bitcoin options opened to the public. And today, they just added a $400,000 Bitcoin option for December of this year that people can buy. This is where the optimism is. It's unbelievable.
Holly, where do I buy Bitcoin options?
Honestly, I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah. I've never messed with futures. I don't want to pay for that premium. And I play on exchanges and I play with leverage, and that's how I make my money. And it's where I've learned everything, and I stick to it now. So,
I mean, fair enough. And it's worked well for you, but
yeah,
man, I really want to know right now. I want to know how much it costs to buy a Bitcoin 400K futures contract.
It's gotta be pricey.
Yeah.
But just the fact that they're even opening that as an option is pretty mind-boggling, considering the price is 38,000 right now, and they said 400.
Yeah, 38,000 is that's a pimple. That's a pimple on your back, man. That's nothing.
Yeah, man. That's what I mean. It's crazy, and I don't think we're hitting 400. But is in my mind an inevitability for this year. We are getting to 100K Bitcoin, which is crazy to think about.
I welcome it. And our new crypto rule.
Okay. On to the next one. This is just a quick one. And it personally impacts me, actually, because I am a Ledger owner who bought directly from Ledger. But for those of you that didn't know, there was a previous hack where quite a few people got their Ledger accounts leaked. And those Ledger accounts include your name, your address, your phone number, your email. So it looks like even more of these accounts got leaked. And now people are actually receiving death threats or harm threats through their email and demanding 0.3 BTC, or basically they say we're going to come to your house and like take a crowbar to your face.
Wow.
Or imagine what's going to happen to your family, which is, yeah, it's a very scary thing. Now, the good news is these guys are just trying to promote fear and everything. And that's part of the reason why I want to bring this up, right? These guys they're not going to actually come to your house. They're just trying to scare you into giving them a whole lot of Bitcoin or Ether. They're saying 0.3 Bitcoin or 10 Ethereum right now. But
so with the records that were leaked, does that include your address, your physical address?
Oh, yes. Where they were shipped, your email, your phone number, your full name, right? So it is very scary. And the first time that this news came out, Ledger basically said, "Hey, we're not gonna like pay everybody reparations or anything. We're just really sorry that this happened." Wow. Because Ledger was like, "Look, we'd go bankrupt. We wouldn't be able to continue as a company." But it's really interesting to see. Just, I don't know. It's a good, I guess, thing just to think about with your safety and keeping your coins and making sure your home's secure and everything, because who knows what may come out of this. Now, luckily, they don't know the amounts, obviously, you have on your ledger, right? You could have a ledger. There are many people with ledgers that have $0 on it.
Sure.
And I doubt somebody would see a name and be like, all right, we're going to go there. We're going to face pretty much death because we said we're going to harm you, right? That gives you enough reason to actually resort to physical violence back to these people that come to your home. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody would take that risk, but it's still it's just wild to think about. And there are going to be scammers in the future, and there's going to be more of this as the greed goes up, as this asset rises in value. So just something to think about.
Wow. Damn, that's wild, Bolly. I mean, hey,
I need a trained dog, dude, a trained pit bull or something to go with my self-protection here.
Well, luckily, I'm sure you'll be able to afford a good one with all of your
nice pit bull or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's I briefly wanted to just show the chart, show where we are. So let me pull that up for the audience quick.
As of today, January 14th, 2021.
Yes. And luckily we've been pretty spot on with these predictions so far, right? So we broke this head and shoulders the other day, mm-hmm. and we eventually ran up and tested that 39 level, had a sell-off like we spoke about. Mm-hmm. And now we're just riding this nice channel. For anybody that wants to stack some sats, this is a good place to do it. But we're rapidly approaching this all-time high, right? So tomorrow we're really going to see if we get rejected hard downwards and we start retesting some of these levels. First one would be right around this 3,600 level.
Right.
That would be the first area of support. Or if we're just going to blow past this and moon the fuck up. So basically, I'm not taking much risk. I'm just scalping this whole thing. All these swings are pretty spot on. If you notice, it's pretty amazing actually. But we gotta just sit back and watch the data and see where that pulls us. Hopefully, by this time tomorrow, we'll be able to give the audience a better idea of what kind of actions to play, even though this is not financial advice. These are actions I'm going to take, and it's just my opinion.
That's right. Just your opinion.
All right. So thank you all for tuning in today. Again, remember to comment, like, subscribe, help us with that YouTube algorithm, and wishing you all to make some money. Good night.
Good night.